Shockwave? Shockwave, where are you? Shockwave!
Sir, I don't think you're going to find Shockwave that easily.
What in the world do you mean, Starscream?
Well, sir, we're kind of in space on him at the moment.
You continue to lie to me, Starscream. And this lie isn't even a good one. We're on a battleship, not Shockwave.
But Shockwave transforms into a battleship.
No, he doesn't. He transforms into a human-sized submarine. And besides, you idiot, even if he did transform into a battleship, he wouldn't even be the size of one of us.
We can change our size in this universe. You know that, right? I mean, I'm not the smartest in the world, but Shockwave told me about it. He called it mass shifting or something.
I will not tolerate your insolence anymore, Starscream. Now come here right this instant, Shockwave, or else I will have your head.
Like Starscream said, I cannot at the moment, as you are all inside of me, and if I did transform to meet you, you would all explode out of my stomach, and I feel like that would be stealing a joke from some other Transformer reviewing YouTuber.
Are you saying that Starscream was right?
No, my lord, I'm saying that I'm not that scummy to steal a joke. I mean, who would do that sort of thing?
Fine, you're right. But Starscream isn't.
I never said that.
Hello everybody, my name is Kanohii Mineka and welcome back to the review series thingy. And today we are here to review a Transformer. And I thought what better way to start doing Transformers reviews than to review the Transformer that got me back into purchasing the toy line, but it's gonna be a bit annoying if I have to hold the figure up like this the whole review, so give me a sec. Alright, that's better. Got ourselves a tower of boxes here so that we can review the Transformers Generations War for Cybertron Trilogy Siege Leader Class Shockwave. Now, I'm going to be going from alt mode to robot mode in this review just because I have more to say about robots than I do have about weird spaceship thingies. But I'm going to say it right now. I really like this alt mode. I know it's honestly a bit simple, you know, and people prefer the other alt mode probably because G1 references or whatever, but like, I think as a spaceship design, this is really cool. I like to think of it as like a battleship, like a Decepticon battleship, because like mass shifting or whatever, or at least Shockwave was like, hey, I want to be looking like a Decepticon battleship or whatever. And so, like, here we have, like, the flagship of the Decepticon Armada or whatever, you know? Honestly, it looks really good, especially with all of the accessory bits adorning it, which we'll talk about that later. Don't worry, guys. I know how much people hate this priced thing. Whatever. To hold it in a bit closer detail, which I'll want to do more with the robot when I get to it, there's a lot of sculpted detail that honestly doesn't appear on earlier Transformers figures. I would know. I was able to pick up a couple of the ones from even a year before this came out, and they do not have nearly as much detail as this thing. Like, honestly, I can kind of see where the money went, but once again, we will get to that. Probably we'll talk about it during the size comparisons. But yeah, also I really like how the front kind of looks like a huge cannon, just to be like it's orbiting a planet, and then like it's like I don't know, just like a lot of fun imagination stuff, and like it's really fun to like swoosh around, I guess, because it's like or whatever. And yeah, I guess that's all I really have to say about the battleship mode. All of the accessories, I should say, are already on the figure, so I'm gonna skip that. And you know what else I'm gonna skip? Articulation. Because this has no real articulation that I won't cover in the robot section. So instead, we're just gonna skip right on the size comparison. And this is honestly kind of unfair, because he's only like 1.5 inches tall, so if we let the thing collapse for a second, which was definitely intentional and not just an unintentional bit, I'm gonna stand him up like this so that we can get a decently accurate length, since that's what people really care about. And he's almost, like, I'd say about 10.5 inches, you know? Which is honestly pretty tall, or long for something like this. However, it's also low to the ground, which it's understandable why, because it's a ship, not like a dude standing up. But for size comparisons, we have a typical 6-inch Hasbro action figure within the Lightning Collection Magna Defender. And for more Transformery comparisons, here we have Siege Optimus Prime in his Cybertronian space truck mode. And since I really don't want to transform everyone, here's Voyager-class Megatron and Starscream next to him in their robot modes, and seeing this, I'm like, yeah, this works as a leader class. Sure, yeah. Yeah, but people won't be so much that way when we get to robot mode, but once again, we'll get to that. And finally, we have next to him an older leader class figure, Power of the Primes Optimus Primal, or Optimal Optimus. And looking at it here, you can be like, oh yeah, why are people complaining about the price of this being a leader? This looks pretty good, honestly. They're about the same height. Shockwave's even slightly taller. But we'll get to it. But first, let's de-accessorize this vehicle mode in order to get to his base vehicle mode. So what you're going to want to do is take off these side constructions, if they're going to cooperate with you. And what you want to do is, for the front bit, you're going to want to pop it off from its peg holes like so, and here you get a smaller ship mode. However, for many, what they're going to want to do is flip down these, flip it like this, and turn it into his Cybertronian blaster mode. We're going to start in the smaller ship mode, and because, like, it's just Shockwave. Like if you hold it like this is just Shockwave. This is just Shockwave standing up. Pretty funny, without his head poking out, and with something that I'm not going to mention. But yeah, though that honestly is pretty accurate to the original ship mode. I prefer the armored ship mode. Because I honestly really like the look of the armored ship mode. And the armor does add a good bit of length to him, in ship mode at least. But yeah, I'm not going to do size comparisons for this thing. However, flipping it over into its unintentional blaster mode, this is honestly a pretty good representation of his original blaster mode. It's honestly a bit smaller, which, I mean, it makes sense. Toys do get a bit smaller over time, have gotten a bit smaller over time. And honestly, it's a bit small for my hands. However, for a young child's hands, this could be pretty good. And, like, yeah. But, like, this isn't why you're here. You're either here for the armored ship mode or for the other two modes, which we'll get to. I'm not going to do a size comparison for this mode because I don't really want to. I don't feel like I really need to either, because it's not like Ultra Magnus where, like, he's got like a whole like he's that crazily smaller. He's only a little bit smaller in this mode, though he's more of a Voyager class size than a leader class. I'm gonna bring in Optimus to show you. He's still pretty decently long in comparison to someone like Optimus Prime. So we're just gonna get on to the transformation sequence. I'm sorry if the transformation sequence is a bit rough. This is my first transformation sequence ever on the channel, so please give me pointers on what I could improve on in the description below. First off, if you haven't already done so, you want to flip down these flaps here because they need to be as flat as possible since these become the sides of the legs. Then you're going to want to pop off this cable and leave it to the side for a bit. And coming to the top, what you're going to want to do is essentially pop this open like that, and then move it down like so. From there, you're going to want to move down the arms, and then close up what you opened up earlier, and then accordion it down to the back, forming Shockwave's body, arms, and backpack. And then from there, you're going to want to plug the cable right back into his arm. From there, you're going to want to unpeg the bridge from the chest cavity and split the legs in half, which is a bit hard to do since they're connected in multiple areas. So I would recommend start by splitting the bridge in half and then split the legs in half, which might naturally do the next step, which is to accordion the legs out like so in order to lengthen them, revealing the lower leg segment of the robot. Then from there, it's pretty simple. You're going to want to fold down the cockpit right back in to the leg and then swivel it around. And then you're going to want to do the same set of steps that we did on the other leg, forming the legs of the robot. From there, to finish it off, you're going to want to open up the chest, fold out the head, fold it down, and then ultimately we have a pretty damn G1 accurate Shockwave, which is to be expected from this very G1 accurate toy line that Generation Siege has been. And now is when I'm going to go in close for detail shots, especially since the robot mode and the vehicle mode are just so dang similar. Starting with the head sculpt, this is just so Shockwave. You know? Like, from the way the spikes are done, from the shaping of the head in and of itself, to the nice eye, which is displayed with some nice clear plastic, which allows for light piping to go through the eye and make it look like it's actually glowing. I also really love the amount of detail that went into the eye cavity. It makes it look like a really nice, living, detailed robot, you know? A lot of the same detail points can be said about the chest, but tenfold. And this bit is kind of displayed in a really nice kind of like dark, muddy clear plastic, you know? And I really like all the little bits of detailed sculpting that is within this little glass panel. And even still, the purple that they rendered the figure in really does help in building up those color choices. The backpack is a bit bulky, however, this is Shockwave. He has a bulky backpack like this. It's in his original animation model. It's kind of to be expected. Moving on to the arms, they look just like G1 Shockwave's arms. I honestly really like them. So on the right side, you have like a typical hand here, and it's basically the same arm on both sides, except this side has a hand, and I really like the tampoed Decepticon symbol here on his lower arm. I think it's just really nice. I also like the rivets that kind of look like a faux ratchet, even though it isn't really. But we'll get to that in the articulation section. Moving on to his right arm, he has this nice little cannon bit, which also looks very nice and G1 accurate, even though it isn't clear, but this is fine. I really like the kind of pale purple, like the lavendery color that they chose for it. And also this cable, I really like the flexible rubber that they chose for it. And they even added a little bit of paint, though I am a bit worried of this tearing and breaking over time. Moving on to the legs, the lower legs are nice and bulky, just like the way I like my G1 Shockwaves. I also really like this little bit of color, it just kind of helps to diversify it. However, on the feet, we finally get one of Siege's staples, which is the heavy weathering effects, which this figure is a bit splotchy, and I feel like it's done better on other figures like Siege Optimus Prime. I think this is just like the best figure in the line, you know, but like it's still really well done here, and it's done even better on the accessory bits, which we'll get into right now. Now, the accessory bits are all the extra bits that we took off of him earlier on in the transformation when we were going from large ship mode to gun mode. So they include this, sorry about the camera troubles, this backpack bit, which is honestly the least usable of all of the parts. And then you also get a left and right version of these shoulder pads and these blaster foot pedestal things, which I'm calling them that because of the official transformation sequence. Now, if you didn't notice, as we were going through the robot mode, there are a lot of peg holes that I neglected to mention that are all over his body, which are also throughout the ship mode, which plays into the gimmick of the Transformers Generation Siege toy line, making your figures battle ready. So let's say you want to have his arms have a little bit of extra firepower. Well, you can easily ignore the official transformation sequence and put on some of these extra cannons onto his arms, you know? If you give me a second, and then, yeah. And then boom, he's got some really cool cannon arms, which just increases playability for him tenfold. And if you want to, you can incorporate this with other figures that I sadly don't have, like Cup or Brunt, where you can take them apart and add weapon parts to them as well, or you can add the Battle Masters, or you can use these little pegs that are on him to display the blast effect parts that are also scattered throughout the toy line. This gimmick is really what made me fall in love with Siege. Playing with the play pattern through Siege Shockwave all on his own was just so fun to me that I had to pick up other figures to mess around with. Even still, I can bring in someone like Starscream over here, take off his cannons, give them 2 Shockwave, if you give me a second. A boop-a-doo-boo, a boop-a-doo-bye, and then boom, because even those bits have portholes, and then we can take, like, Shockwave's shoulder pads, and then give them the Starscream, kind of. You know, they're a bit of a loose fit on Starscream, but they still fit. So now you can have your whole, like, Decepticon army decked out for battle by buying this one set, you know? And even, you know? So I just think that's just really fun and innovative as my camera falls over. Boop-a-doo-doo. Alright, now we're going to continue this section off with his articulation, which is pretty stock standard for Transformers. It's a bit worse than other action figure lines, but that's just because it's a Transformer. It makes sense. They gotta put a lot of engineering into these things. Starting with the head, it is on a typical ball joint that allows for a decent amount of range. It allows him to look up allows him to look up that far and down that far. His shoulders have 2 joints, which allows where there's an inner joint thanks to transformation that allows it to go up that far. And then there's also a normal shoulder joint that allows it to go up that far, essentially allowing for complete upwards movement on both arms. Both arms also have a bicep swivel, a little over 90 degree bend at the elbow, as well as a swivel at the hand assembly / cannon, which I'm using the cannon arm as an example for this bit. Thankfully, this figure also has a waist swivel, which allows for nice dynamic poses. Moving on to the hips, they're basically on universal joints, which allows them to kick forward that far, backward completely, as well as to split out completely, which is a very nice range of movement, especially for a Transformer figure. his knees are on ratchets, which are able to bend about 90 degrees as well. And finally, coming to the feet, they are on rockers, which allow them to pivot slightly, which is extenuated more when you have the foot platforms. Now, to end the robot whatever section off, the base robot mode stands at a little over 6.5 inches tall to the top of the head. And for size comparison, we once again have Magna Guardian, Siege Voyager Optimus Prime in his robot mode, Voyager class Megatron and Starscream, and even still he's slightly shorter than Megatron if I can get him to work better in frame. He's slightly shorter than Megatron, which is weird, but we'll get to it. Here we have the amazing Yamaguchi Bleeding Edge Iron Man, the topic of my last review, the Star Wars Black Series Captain Rex, and finally he's standing next to his leader class compatriot, Optimal Optimus. And this is where the contention comes in. You see, these two figures are both leader class. These two figures are priced the same at $50. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime is the same size as this current figure, but he's only $30. Which honestly seemed weird to a lot of Transformers fans. So now we're gonna go into the mode that allowed for that higher price. Getting him into armored mode here is just as simple as getting him out of armored mode in the vehicle. So to start off, we're gonna take the shoulder pads and plug them into his shoulders. And compared to Starscream, they plug in a lot better because they are explicitly designed for these shoulders. However, they do work on other characters' shoulders. They don't work on Megatron's, but whatever. Now we're going to take the foot platforms with the wings folded up like so, and plug them into the peg holes that are on the feet, like so. And you're going to repeat that on the other side. And yeah. And finally with the backpack bit, you want to have the cannon bits folded in like so, and then you just place it on like you would place it onto the back of the cannon mode of the ship mode. And if you would like, you can move the cable to the other arm, but you don't have to. And here we have Leader Class Battle Ready Shockwave. And yeah, this does look a bit chaotic. However, I think it makes sense for Shockwave's character. I mean, he's a crazy scientist who will experiment with whatever the heck he can come on without any morals. And so yeah, I get why he would make a battle armor like this, especially at the end of the Autobot-Decepticon war, as it seems to be during Siege. The one big problem this does have, it makes the backpack a lot bigger. These flaps do have a bit of articulation where they're on a swivel and a hinge, but it's not great. It's a really big backpack that does limit the head articulation a tiny bit, which is a bit annoying. The only other bits of new articulation that are introduced in this figure is that these arms, they are on double hinges, and from there they have the same amount of articulation that the other arms have down from the bicep swivel. I do enjoy this mode, though not as much as G1 Shockwave mode, which is honestly just a really good G1 Shockwave. But this mode is still fun, and yeah, whatever. Now, to measure out his size before we do some rapid-fire size comparisons, it brings him up to about 7¼ inches to the top of the head, I would say, though the camera does make him look a lot shorter. Like, I'd say, well, actually about 7 inches to the top of the head, though to the top of the cannon, it's more like 7¾ I would say. And now for some rapid-fire size comparison. Magna Guardian, Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream, Iron Man, Captain Rex, and Optimal Optimus. And even still, Optimal towers over Shockwave, which, once again, still it kind of hurts that these two are the same price. However, if you look at it, they probably have the same amount of plastic. You see, when you turn around the facade, you see the extreme amount of hollowness that this figure is just covered in. Like, the back of the arms, these don't even need to be hollow for the transformation sequence. Like, Megatron, Siege Megatron, the back of his arms are also hollow, but they have to be hollow for the transformation sequence. These don't even have to be hollow for the transformation. And yes, a decent amount of these parts do have to be hollow for the transformation, I understand that. However, this figure, though having weight, most of the weight comes from it basically being two figures as well. Like, you've got Optimus Primal here, which is why I was really sold on it. And then you look at other leader class figures from that time period, like, I don't know, Rodimus Prime, and you see the lack of articulation on that figure and the amount of hollowness on that figure. And yeah, I would take a Siege Shockwave any day over what we used to have. Honestly. Owning his Wave-mate Ultra Magnus does make him seem a little bit less worth the $50 price tag, because that is honestly a pretty good figure. Honestly, I prefer this figure. I bet you're wondering, why do you prefer this figure? Well, honestly, because of the versatility of the play pattern, because for me, action figures aren't just things that I'm going to put on a shelf. Of course, they are going to end up on a shelf at some point, but I love to articulate my figures. This is why I love Amazing Yamaguchi. This is one of the reasons why I love Amazing Yamaguchi Iron Man. I just love to mess around with my action figures. And this figure, with the versatility of his armor compared to Ultra Magnus's, which only really works in one configuration, I just love to mess around with this guy. And no wonder this guy got me into the play pattern of Transformers Generations War for Cybertron Siege that led me to get a bunch more figures from the toy line. And has even led me to get earlier figures like Optimal Optimus. That, looking for something that would be a cool character, and just finding that it's slightly worse than what we have now. Even though it's like a year younger. Like, goodness gracious, guys. Yes, I'm not sure if this figure is necessarily worth $50. I'd rather him be $40 or $45 personally, because I really see this figure as I stated on a review that I posted on Hasbro Pulse, a starter set like the Bionicle 2016 Kopaka Uniter combo set. I know that's not what it's called, because it's like the Kopaka and Mellum or whatever, but hear me out here. Both of these figures are released at higher prices than the rest of their teammates. However, they are meant to introduce consumers to the play pattern. You see, for this set, you get both Kopaka and Mellum, which allows for the consumer to try out the combining method. Kind of like how on Shockwave, you get a figure and a bunch of armor bits, which allows a consumer to try out the combat armor system. It's an acronym, which I find really stupid, but whatever, I don't care. But yeah, that's where I see kind of the worth in this, because this figure is an introductory figure to the line. It's not, alongside being a really good Shockwave figure, it's probably the best Shockwave figure we've had in years, other than like the Masterpiece one. But like, I don't compare these to Masterpieces, even though they're getting really darn close. Have you seen Earthrise Optimus Prime? Holy crap. But yeah, if you want to get one over to the Siege/Earthrise play pattern, I definitely recommend picking this figure up, seeing what you think. Man, I suck at this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I went for a bit of a faster and looser style for this review, since I knew I had to get like 4 modes out of the way. So I tried to be a bit quicker with my thoughts here. Tell me what you compare to like stuff like Captain Rex and Amazing Yamaguchi Iron Man. So please, tell me what you thought of this review compared to my other reviews in the comment section below. Tell me what I could do better, what I could do worse. I'm still growing in doing weekly toy reviews like this. And yeah, who knows what I'll review next. I might review a Gundam, I might review a Bionicle, I might review some other Marvel action figure, I might review another Transformer. Who the heck knows? But yeah, for this kind of variety content, please like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, whatever. All the stuff YouTubers tell you to do that. Do that thing. I am stupid. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Do all the stuff. Click the clicky things. I'll see you in the next toy review. Bye-bye.